Hello, welcome back guys to this channel, and on today's video tutorial we're going to be going over how to make use of Firebase storage in our app. So Firebase storage is an online storage that enables you to save your app generated content like images, mp3 files, short mp4 files, video files and stuff like that. You can easily save them on Firebase storage, and you can also retrieve them back into your app whenever you want. So it's really a very useful tool, and how to go about it is pretty straightforward. So in this video we are going to be going over how to make use of Firebase storage to save some of our images. So if you really like this and you find it pretty interesting, keep on watching, and don't forget to hit the like button if you haven't done that already. Please do that now. And if this is your first time of dropping by the channel, hit the subscribe button and turn on the bell notification so that you can always get notified whenever I make this kind of video. So now, without wasting any other time, let's get right into it. So I'm gonna go ahead and open up Visual Studio. So we need to create a project, but it appears that what we are going to be doing, we've done it somehow before in the past. So we had a project that enables us to be able to select images from our gallery and also take or snap photos from our camera. So what we're going to be doing is that we're going to clone the repository. I'm going to put the link in the video description so that we can also clone the repository so that we can start from here. So if you're kind of wondering when we learned about Xamarin camera, so I'm going to put a link to the video description so you can go ahead and watch how to be able to select image from your gallery and also how to access your camera and take photos. So the next thing we need to do will be to go ahead and copy this URL, because we want to check out this code and use it to build up on how to save images to Firebase storage. So I'm going to copy this URL and I'm going to go back to my Visual Studio, and at this point I'm going to go ahead and click on clone or checkout code. So here we need to provide the repository URL, which is the URL we just copied. So I'm going to paste this here. So the next thing we need to do will be to select the local path where we want to save this project. So I'm going to put it here. I'm going to select folder. Alright, so let's go ahead and click on clone. So you need to be connected to the internet for this to work appropriately. Okay, so the repository has been cloned successfully. Now all we need to do is to go ahead and click on the solution file, which is this Xamarin camera.sln. So I'm going to click on it to load the project. So this is really a very good place to start. It actually saves us a lot of time. Alright, so the project has now been loaded. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and load the main activity.cs. Okay, and here we are. So this is what the code looks like, and the next thing I want to do will be to go ahead and load the design so that we can see what we had in this project before we can start building on it. So I'm going to load the layout file so that we can see what we have there. Alright, so this is what our project looks like. So we have two buttons here, capture image and upload image. So I actually think it makes a lot of sense that we run this project and see what our app does before we can start building upon it. So I'm going to go ahead and run this on our emulator so that we'll be able to see what our app is doing currently before we can start building on it. Okay, so our app is starting, and bam, so this is what we have. So this is requesting for permissions to read and write photos, so we're gonna go ahead and allow that. Now let's go ahead and click on capture image. Boom, so as you can see, this opened the camera app. So if you're running this on a real device, it's going to open up your camera, so we can go ahead and take a shot. And when we select this will go ahead and show up on this image view, and bam. And if we click on upload image, what happens here is that this will open up our gallery, and we will be able to select an image from our gallery to display on our image view. So I'm going to select this beautiful lady here, and bam. So as you can see, the image that we just selected from the gallery is showing up here. So what we want to do from this moment is that as soon as we've selected an image from our gallery, for instance, we selected the image of this beautiful lady here, we can now go ahead and upload this image to Firebase Storage. And after that, we should also be able to retrieve this image back into our application. So that's exactly what we are going to be doing. So I'm going to go ahead and stop this. Alright, now the first thing we need to do will be to edit our design. We need to add extra two buttons. So I'm going to go ahead and change the margins to 2dp so that we'll be able to have space to add extra two buttons. I'm going to change it to select image as well. Okay, so we need to resolve all of this when we get into our main activity. Now I'm going to go ahead and copy this button. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and create another button. So this button is going to be download from URL, because when we upload the image or whatever file to Firebase Storage, there will be a unique URL we can always use to download it anytime we want. Alright, so this is basically all the edits that we need to make on our UI. So the next thing we need to do will be to go to our main activity and start referencing these views, and also start implementing Firebase Storage and all of that. So let's return to main activity. So here the first thing we need to do will be to go ahead and reference the new buttons that we just defined. So before we get confused, there is something that we did. We changed our upload button to be select button, so we need to resolve that change first of all before we get confused. So we're gonna have this as select button, and this is going to be select button. So we're gonna create a new method. Alright, so instead of having this as upload photo, I'm going to copy this and paste this here. And also we need to rename this method from upload photo to select photo. So I'm going to change this to select photo. So this is to ensure that our naming convention doesn't confuse us in any way. So I think we now have that resolved and out of the way. Now the next thing we need to do will be to go ahead and reference the two new buttons that we just added to our design. So we have the upload button and the download button. So I'm going to have upload button. Alright, so now that we successfully defined all our views, the next thing we need to do will be to go to our Firebase console and set up Firebase Storage. So I'm going to open up my Google Chrome. So I'm going to go to my Firebase console, which is console.firebase.google.com. So if you have a Gmail account or a Google account, of course you automatically have a Firebase console. So this is my Firebase console. So why you're seeing all of these boxes is because I already have other projects that I've created in the past. So we're gonna go ahead and create a new project. So this project, I can easily call it save to storage. I'm gonna go ahead and click on continue. I'm gonna turn off Google Analytics. I'm going to click on create project. Alright, so our project has been successfully created. So I'm going to go ahead and click on continue. And now the first thing we need to do will be to go ahead and add our Android project to it. So to do that, we need to return back to Visual Studio and copy our package name. So to access our package name, we're going to go to projects, and we're going to click on Xamarin camera properties, and we're going to click on manifest, and this is our package name. Our package name doesn't actually look good, so I'm going to go ahead and change our package name to something much more appropriate. So I'm going to change it to com.ufinix.xamarin camera. So we need to return back to our Firebase console. So I'm going to paste this here. And after that, we're going to go ahead and register our app. Okay, so our app has been successfully registered. So we need to go ahead and download the Google services.json. This is the file that will help us to connect with our project later on in this tutorial. Alright, so this is all we need to do here. So we need to go ahead and continue to console. Now the next thing we need to do is to go ahead and set up our Firebase storage. So to do that, I'm going to go to the left pane and click on storage. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and click on get started and click on next and click on done. So our storage bucket is being created. Alright, so our Firebase storage is being created, and we are almost there. Alright, so our storage is fully set up. So as you can see, we don't have any files here. So if we so desire, we can go ahead and upload files manually by clicking this button. But what we want to do is that we want to do it from within our application. And as well, you can create folders if you want to really organize your files. You can create folders as well, and all of this we'll be able to do from within our application. So now that this is fully set up for us, we need to return back to Visual Studio and start setting up Firebase storage in our app. Now the first thing we need to do here will be to go ahead and install Firebase storage. But before we do that, there is something we need to pay attention to. So it is high time that we change the target version of our Android to 9.0. This is to ensure that we don't run into any unfortunate issues. And if you also desire, you can even change the target Android version to Android 10, which is relatively new. So I'll just stick to 9.0 for now. Now the next thing we need to do will be to go to our package manager and install Firebase storage. So I'm going to right click here and go to manage NuGet packages. So before we go ahead, it's also very necessary that we update our support libraries. So we should always do this any single time that we are installing packages. We need to ensure that all our support libraries are up to date. Okay, so we are done with that. So we're going to go ahead and search for Firebase storage. Okay, so this is the package that we are interested in, Xamarin.firebase.storage. So we're going to go ahead and install this. So as you can see, the target version for our project hasn't really changed. So we kind of need to build our application first of all before we can install Xamarin.firebase.storage. So we need to kind of build our application first of all to ensure that the Android version has changed. As the target Android version has changed, because it hasn't actually changed. So we need to build our application. So let's go ahead and build this. So it actually seems that our Android target version has not changed. So there is a very sure way of fixing this. So I'm going to go ahead and close this project. And I'm going to navigate to where the project folder is. I think it's on my desktop. Now I'm going to navigate into the project files. So I'm going to go ahead and load this file, Xamarin camera.csproj. So this is a project file, a C# project file. So I'm going to go ahead and open this file with my Visual Studio Code so that I'll be able to make some edits inside of it. Alright, so this is what I'm interested in. So I'm going to change the target framework version to 9.0. Alright, so instead of having 8.1, I'm going to change this to 9.0. Okay, so this is all we need to do. So I'm going to scroll down to see if there's another place that has the version to be 8.1. So I think that's the only place. So that's all we need to do. So I'm going to go ahead and save this file by using Ctrl S, and I'm going to go ahead and close Visual Studio, and we need to go ahead and open up this project once more. So this time around, our target framework would have successfully changed. We'll now be able to install Firebase storage. Alright, so let's return back to our package manager and try to install Firebase storage again. So these are some of the errors that you face, when you check out a project. You have to upgrade the project to the latest versions and all. So I think it's also a knowledge that is very useful, especially if you're going to be working with older projects sometime in future. So I'm going to go ahead and search for Firebase storage. Okay, so let's go ahead and install Firebase storage. So I think we've passed the problem of the target framework. Now the next thing we need to do will be to install some useful or very important support libraries, which is support v4. Support v4 is missing. So let's go ahead and install this guy. Alright, so let's try to install Firebase Storage. So hopefully you won't get another error. Okay, so everything is fine. So let's go ahead and install all of this. Alright, so Firebase Storage has now been successfully installed. So now we need to return to our main activity and initialize Firebase. So before we can start writing files to our Firebase storage, we need to first of all initialize Firebase on our application. So now the next thing we need to do is to write the code that will initialize our Firebase. But to be able to do that, we need to access the Google Services.json file that we downloaded from our Firebase console. So this is the file. I'm going to go ahead and open it up. So if you go through the Google documentation, they tell you that with the Google Services.json file, you will be able to initialize your Firebase. But sometimes initializing Firebase this way can actually fail. So we are going to follow a particular procedure that ensures that your Firebase will always get initialized. So I'm going to return back to Visual Studio. So what I'm going to do here will be to go ahead and save our app. This will be equal to Firebase app. So we need to go ahead and resolve this. Now initialize app. We're going to pass it this context. So most of the time this will fail, like 100% of the time, even if you added your Google Services.json. So what we want to do will be to add an extra check to confirm if the Firebase app was initialized or not, of which 100% of the time is going to be no. So at this point, we need to actually declare a new Firebase option builder. With the option builder, we can now go ahead and initialize our Firebase app properly. So here I'm going to have options. Alright, now we need to go ahead and provide some attributes to our Firebase options. So we need to provide a project ID. So all of these properties, we can get it from the Google Services.json file. So the project ID is what we see here. So I'm going to go ahead and copy it and return to Visual Studio. So we're going to paste this here. Now the next attribute that we need to add will be the application ID. So I'm going to have .set application ID, and the project ID is the same thing as the application ID. And the next thing we need to provide will be the API key. Alright, so if you're not so familiar with working with Firebase, I have a full tutorial on that is going to guide you on how to start making use of Firebase database and other things in between. So the API key, we can scroll down. So the current key is the API key. So this is our API key, so I'm going to go ahead and copy it. And here I'm going to have set API key. Now the next thing we need to add will be the database URL. So we need to return to the file. And we're going to copy the Firebase URL. The Firebase URL is the same thing as the database URL. And the next thing we need to have, which is the last thing, will be the storage bucket. So this is our storage bucket. So I'm going to go ahead and copy it as well. So I'm going to paste this here. And finally, I'm going to go ahead and build. So when we have our build options, the next thing we need to do will be to go ahead and say app will be equal to Firebase app dot initialize. And here we're going to pass it our context, and we're going to pass it this option that we just defined. So this is what we need to do to initialize our Firebase. So we're going to call this method as soon as our app starts so that our Firebase can be initialized. Alright, so after our Firebase has now been successfully initialized, the next thing we want to do will be to go ahead and upload the image which we either captured from our camera or selected from our gallery to Firebase. So to do that, we need to go ahead and create a click event handler for the upload button. So I'm going to have upload button.click. Alright. So the way Firebase Storage works is that we convert the file that we want to save on Firebase Storage to a byte array first of all. Then we now send it to Firebase Storage. So what we want to do now would be to go ahead and convert the images that we selected from our gallery or captured from the camera to a byte array, and the byte array is what we're going to send to Firebase Storage. So what I'm going to do will be to navigate to the methods that helps us to take photo or select photo. Alright, so this is the byte array that we can send to Firebase Storage. So what I want to do will be to go ahead and make this variable a global variable so that we can be able to access it from anywhere within our app. So I'm going to convert this to a global variable, and also I'm going to copy it, and okay, this is the same name, so I'm going to go ahead and clean this out so they inherit from the same variable. Alright, now we need to return back to our upload button click event handler, which is this. So this is where we're going to go ahead and write the code that is going to send our image array to Firebase. So for instance, if the case here is not an image, if it's an MP3 file, it will still have to go to the same process of converting it into byte array, and then you can now send the byte array to Firebase Storage. Don't worry, Firebase Storage will understand what type of file we just uploaded. So before we upload to Firebase Storage, so we need to confirm that our image array is not null. So I'm going to say if image array is not equal to null. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and define a storage reference. So I will need my storage reference to be a global variable. So I'm going to have storage reference. Okay, so let's go ahead and resolve this. So storage reference. Alright. So back here in our upload button click event listener. So here I can now go ahead and say storage reference will be equal to Firebase Storage dot instance dot get reference. Alright, so this is a very interesting part. So for instance, if we want to save these images into a particular folder location in our Firebase storage, so this is the point we can do that. So let's say I want to save all of this into a folder called post images. I can easily go ahead and write post images slash. So this is the time that we need to provide the name that we want the file to appear with on our Firebase storage. So I want this to be first image on our Firebase storage. So we're gonna go ahead and say storage reference dot put bytes. So we need to go ahead and pass it our image array. Okay, so this will go ahead and upload the bytes to Firebase storage. But we need to be able to know if our upload is successful or not. So we're gonna add on success listener. So this is going to be an interface. And also we're going to add on failure listener. So these are interfaces that we'll need to implement in our activity. So as you can see, this is on failure listener interface. So we need to implement these interfaces. So to do that, we're going to scroll to the top part of our activity. So here I'm going to go ahead and have on success listener. So let's go ahead and resolve this. Okay, and after resolving this, we need to go ahead and implement this interface. And the next one is going to be on failure listener. And we need to implement this interface as well. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and navigate to these two methods that we just created. So what happens here is that immediately our upload is successful, this method is going to be called. So we can now go ahead and choose what we want to do when our image has been successfully uploaded. So what I'm going to do will be to go ahead and display a toast. Alright, so we don't have to go too far. I think it's high time that we'll go ahead and test what we've been doing to confirm that everything is working just the way we expected it to work. So I'm going to go ahead and run this on our emulator so that we can see how far we've come. Alright, so let's go ahead and run this. Okay, so it seems that we have a problem here with our linking. So I'm going to go ahead and see how we can resolve this. Alright, so it appears that we had some errors. So when we defined our ID, we're supposed to have @+ before the ID. So this is what was missing. And this was causing error in our project, so we fixed that up. I think now everything is well in order. So we need to go into our main activity and confirm that everything has resolved appropriately. Alright, so let's go ahead and build our project. Okay, so let's build again. Okay, so our build is successful. So let's go ahead and run our project on the emulator so that we can see how far we've come in the project. Okay, so our app is starting. Okay, so let's go ahead and select an image from our gallery. So we're actually going to select the beautiful lady that I have in my gallery. So that's the image that we're going to upload. Alright. Alright, so now let's go ahead and upload this to Firebase Storage. So we're supposed to see a toast if upload was successful. So we didn't get a toast, so it means that something is wrong. So as you can see, I did everything correctly and still our upload was not successful. We didn't get the toast that told us that our upload is successful. Alright, so to be able to fix this, we need to go back to our Firebase storage and we need to go into the rules. So currently by default, the rules is set that you need to be logged in using Firebase authentication before you'll be able to read or write, which is this rule here. So what we need to do will be to go ahead and change the rules. So we want to make our storage to be open so anyone can always read and write. So we just needed to delete all of those code and just set it to true. So now we need to go ahead and publish this. Alright, so our changes has now been published. Now the next thing we need to do will be to go back to our app. So we're going to try to upload the file again. So we are very certain and we're very hopeful that this time around our upload will be successful. As you can see, successful upload. So if we go ahead and refresh this, we'll be able to see the image that we just uploaded. So as you can see, the folder was appropriately created for us. So when we click on the folder, and this is the image that we just uploaded. So this is the image that we just uploaded. Now I know that the next question you have in mind will be that, how do you get this image back into your app? How can I always access it when I want? So that will bring us to the next thing we're going to talk about. We're going to go over how to retrieve the download URL. So every file that we upload to Firebase storage will always have a download URL. So what we need to do is to write the code or implement the method that is going to get us the download URL. So to get the download URL, we're going to go to the onSuccess method. So we can only get the download URL when the upload was successful. So this is the onSuccess method. So as soon as the upload is successful, so we need to go ahead and try to get the download URL. So here I'm going to go ahead and say if storage reference is not equal to null. Alright, so at this point I can easily go ahead and say storage reference dot get download URL. Alright, now the next thing we need to do will be to go ahead and add onSuccess listener. So the onSuccess listener will retrieve or will return the download URL for us. So we're going to implement this interface in this activity as well. So this is all we need to do. So I'm going to copy this and paste this here. So there is something interesting that is happening here. So we need to implement another onSuccess listener interface, which means that this interface is going to share this method as well. So what was supposed to happen is that when we implement the onSuccess listener interface for the get download URL method, so it was supposed to return the download URL of our storage reference in the result. So what we're going to do will be to go ahead and say if not string dot is null or empty result dot to string. So this if statement will help us to grab the download URL. So here I'm going to go ahead and say download URL. This should be equal to result dot to string. So let's go ahead and resolve this by creating this string variable. Alright, now the next thing we need to do will be to go ahead and display our download URL in a toast. We can also go ahead and write our download URL to our console. So I'm going to have system.console Alright, so now we have that. So this will go ahead and retrieve our download URL for us. So with the download URL, we can always download the image back into our app anytime that we want. So the next thing we need to do will be to go ahead and add a click event handler to the download button. So what we want to do is to write a method that can retrieve the image back into our app whenever we want. So I'm going to go ahead and add a click event handler to the download button. So I'm going to have download. Now click. Alright, so to easily download this image, I'm going to go ahead and install FF Image Loading. So FF Image Loading is a package that enables us to easily and seamlessly fetch images from the internet into application. So I have a full video on that in case you want to see it. So I'm going to add the link in the description. So I'm going to go ahead and install FF Image Loading. Alright, so let's go ahead and install this. Alright, so now what we're going to do will be to go to our main activity. So when we click on the download button, I'm going to define an image service. So let's go ahead and resolve this. Okay, so this is coming from FF Image Loading. Image service.instance.load URL. So this is the point that we need to go ahead and provide the download URL of the image that we want to retrieve. And after that, we're going to add the number of retries. So the retry method enables our app to try to download the file. That is, if there is a bad internet connection or it was unable to download it the first time. So we're going to add the number of retries to be 3 and put a delay of 200 milliseconds. Now the next thing we need to do will be to downsample the image. That's if we want to kind of compress the image a little bit, which is okay. So we're going to downsample it to 500 by 500. So if the image is larger than 500 by 500, it will downsample it, which is very useful for performance and memory management in our application. So this is the point that we need to provide the image view where we want to load in this image, and bam. So what I'm going to do now will be to go ahead and run our application. So this time around we expect to see the download URL. So I'm going to change this to second image. Okay, so let's go ahead and run this. So our app is ready to rock and roll. So let's go ahead and select an image. So we're going to select a different image this time around. So this should just be okay. Now the next thing will be to upload this image to Firebase Storage. So we expect the download URL to be returned back to us. So with the download URL, we can always retrieve the image. So this is the download URL. Okay, so let's go ahead and check this out on Firebase. So I'm going to reload this. Okay, so this is the second image that we just uploaded. Okay, so as you can see, that's the image. So I'm going to return to our app, and this is the download URL. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this. Alright. Okay, so what I want to do is to go ahead and paste the download URL here. So what I intend to happen is that when I click on download button, it will go ahead and retrieve this image back into our app. So let's go ahead and test that pretty quickly. Okay, so our app is starting, and here we are. So let's go ahead and click on the download URL button. So this will take a few seconds, and bam. So as you can see, we now have an image. So guys, this is exactly how to make use of Firebase Storage. So this is all we are going to do in today's video. If you really like this video and you've learned something new, go ahead and hit the like button, and if this is your first time here, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and turn on the bell so that you can always get notified whenever I make this kind of video. So if you want the source code, you can always find the link, the GitHub link, in the video description. And this will be all for now. Thank you very much for watching. I really love you guys. Peace out.